We believe through this podcast that we can convey the understanding and the knowledge from these experts in all these fields to allow them to collaborate and be a stronger partner with us to fight global terrorism.
North Carolina Congressman Robert Pittenger joins us. He's chairman of the Congressional Task Force on Terrorism.
The Honorable Robert Pittenger. Mr. Congressman, welcome to the program.
It was the first major rewrite of this bill in over a decade, and frankly, it came through the House Financial Services Committee. My colleague Robert Pittenger of North Carolina was the real leader on it.
Congressman, nice to have you here. You returned from a national security trip to the Middle East. Tell us more about your work there, sir.
Good morning. I'm Robert Pittenger. Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. We want to be able to bring to you the leadership throughout the world who is directing their efforts to defeat global terrorism. Today, I'm very honored and privileged to have a very good friend, Mariano Federici. Mariano is the president of the Financial Intelligence Unit in Argentina. He's given extraordinary leadership in his country and, frankly, for this entire region toward organizing their government to be able to be more successful and more direct in their approach in defeating terrorist activities inside this part of the world. Mariano, thank you for joining us today. Tell us your convictions, your strategy, what you've implemented that's already brought tremendous outcomes in Argentina, the importance of this tri-border area with Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay, and what needs to be done today by Argentina and the neighboring countries, given the fact that your country has already provided, through your leadership, significant advance in the freezing of Hezbollah funds and the arresting of many of their leadership.
Well, thank you very much, Robert, for inviting me to speak for your podcast, and it's a pleasure for me to do so. First, I'd like to say that when we took over this responsibility at our agency 3.5 years ago, we came with a change of government that was very committed to tackling terrorism and the terrorist financing threats that's related to it. We believe that these threats have been underestimated in the past, despite the fact that Argentina suffered 2 major terrorist attacks during the 90s, one against the Israeli embassy and another one against the Jewish mutual organization. So our conviction was that these threats had to be tackled, and they had to be tackled seriously and with determination. We were able to do that in part thanks to your support and thanks to the support of this forum that allowed us to create the right platform to raise awareness, to galvanize the support, and I think the international cooperation that was required for us to be able to take decisive action.
And the forum that you mentioned, our Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum there in Buenos Aires, we had them because of you. You gave the leadership to it. We've had 2 of them there now. And of course, you've provided the leadership for us being in Paraguay here today.
Yes, we had a tremendous success with our forum in Buenos Aires, which allowed also for the opportunity to establish a bilateral dialogue between Argentina and the United States on illicit finances, which in turn allowed us to have a more strategic picture of where we were standing in terms of the terrorist financing and more specifically the Hezbollah related risks. So with that and follow-up actions that we took, information that we collected from both our internal domestic intelligence services and the international community, we were able to consolidate the necessary, I think, information that was required for us to take action. We took last year an important action against an organization that supports Hezbollah in the tri-border region by freezing their assets. And we're now asking and requesting the cooperation of Paraguay and Brazil to line up to this strategy. We have high expectations because we feel that there's a unique momentum in the region with the leadership in Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil lined up with a similar vision on the importance that protecting our countries from the threats of terrorism and terrorism financing has for the stability of our countries, for the stability of the region and the macroeconomic growth and development of our countries. So we want to seize the moment. We want to seize the moment by putting a hard blow against criminals and organizations that put at stake our international peace and security.
What are our impediments? What are our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities relative to judicial reform, relative to those who are in government, though they be appointed or elected, who have been complicit in the past? What tolerance do we have at this point? Obviously, status quo is not acceptable, but what do you believe should be the mindset and the focus and determination to make sure that these impediments are no longer there?
Well, the impediments are the usual ones, those that come from the people that have profited from the status quo for many decades in the past. Corruption is a huge vulnerability of our countries that has not only facilitated criminal groups to enroot themselves in our territory, putting at risk our internal security and the security of other countries, but also it's a huge vulnerability that has played against the effectiveness of our system. When you have corrupt officials, it's unlikely to expect that the agencies will conduct the work in the right way. I highlight corruption because I think it's at the root of the problem. Of course, there are also resources issues, and you mentioned judicial reform. I think it's important to guarantee the independence and impartiality of the judiciary, but I also think it's important for our governments to work in providing the right resources to judges and prosecutors so that they can conduct their job in the right way. I think what's required, what's needed from our countries at this point in time are what I call the 3 C's, which sound just as well as in Spanish as in English. Conviction based on values, having the certainty that these issues are important for the future of our societies, the future of our people. Compromise, commitment. I think it's important that we commit ourselves not only from the public sector, but also from the private sector that needs to engage in a responsible way. We've seen many private sector individuals also profiting from their liaisons, their alliances with crime. And third, but not least, last but not least, courage. Courage is required at
foundation of everything.
Foundation of everything. So.
Well, thank you, Mariano. You have listened to one of the great leaders in South America. What is taking place here, I am grateful for the person who has those 3 C's. You know, the opposite of that, the fourth one, which is the other side of the coin, is those who are complicit. And this is not a time where this region of the world, nor anywhere in the world, we can allow that to continue. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll stay tuned. We're going to continue to bring you some of the great experts and leaders throughout the world in government, in the private sector, who have enabled us to move forward in a collaborative way to join together to defeat global terrorism. We'll be back with you. Thank you so much, and tell your friends to join us at pi-sf.com.